Hi everyone, Megan here from Romance by the Book with the lovely Marielle. And this month's special guest, our author of the book of the month, Juliette Cross.
Hi.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for
So
having me.
we read The Wraith King. We had so much fun with it. And so we have so many questions, so much fun stuff to talk about. But
Most
I guess
people might have met Juliet through a kind of rom-commy paranormal series.
Mhm.
And The Wraith King is not that. Like it's
Nope.
darker, it's more there's the stakes are high. And I feel like maybe if you had, because you had written some vampire books and some other books before that were also a little bit
Right.
like
Yeah.
edgier, I think. So this is
Mhm.
kind of a like it for anyone who started off with the oh my goodness, I'm forgetting the name of your series, the
Say a
Veil of
spell?
Stars or
Stay a
the
Spell, the
Oh,
Stay a
Stay a,
Spell,
oh, Stay a
that
Spell.
they
Yeah.
might be like, oh, this is totally different, but it's kind of a return
well, yeah.
to
It's funny
the
you say that
franchise.
because I've had lots of comments um, from readers of Stay a Spell are like, "This is so not like her normal stuff. This is very different." I'm like, actually, Stay a Spell is not like my normal stuff, but that was my first departure. So yeah, I've been publishing since 2014, and since and all that time, most of them have been the darker paranormal. I did some urban fantasy, demons and all kinds of things. And then it was Stay Spell where I wanted to do something totally different. And because it's like, I think I'm kind of funny. I think I could be funny. I think it would be fun to, do something lighter and felt more contemporary, but as always happens with me, I'm a mood reader as well as a mood writer. My muse, about halfway through the Stay a Spell series, I conjured up the Wraith King and I was like, I'm dying to write this, I just really wanted to get to it, even though I was like totally in love with Stay a Spell and my characters there. Um, I was very excited to return to the more gothic stuff that I really enjoy.
That sort of leads into my question, which was when did the idea for this world first appear to you? Like, how did it happen? I guess you said so you were like halfway through Say a Spell.
Yeah, I want to say I remember I was talking to Carrie. She's a bookstagrammer at a Polycon, and was it 2022 maybe I think, and we were just all in line downstairs. This is when it was at the Hyatt of Polycon, and I was like, I have this idea for this Wraith Fae, and the way it came to me was Chris, my social media manager, sent me this picture. It's this beautiful artwork of a gray zombie like guy, and he's carrying this little pixie on, like, kind of on his shoulders, and her, you can tell she's had wings cut off, and he's stepping on these like skeletal heads, like carrying her, and there's like a chain falling off him, and he's carrying her out of this like pit of something. And I was just like, ooh, I was just like, it hit me, it struck me so hard. It's like, wow, that's amazing. And it's actually on my pictures board for the Wraith King. If anybody's interested in like my inspiration board, I have lots of inspiration pictures there. And that was what got me. And at the time, I was actually, I used to do community theater and assistant direct a lot. And I remember being backstage with one of my memo pads as assistant director for our performances. And I started writing the prologue on this little bitty like memo pad because I couldn't get it out of my head. And his name, Goliath Verbain, just like popped in my, I was like, oh my God, I just can't wait to write this. But I couldn't. So I just wrote like the prologue and I set it aside, and I finished Stay a Spell. And yeah, so I'm just so happy to finally be immersed in this world that I've been thinking about for a while.
Now that you describe that picture, I totally see it for the
Yeah.
prologue of this book. I feel like the vibe is 100% there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny. I mean, King Gaul, he's not really, I mean, he's sort of an anti hero, but not really. I mean, it's when I think about it, I call it darker fantasy. I don't want to say dark romance because people have a very specific feeling. When they think of dark romance, it's, oh well, he's just a murderer for no reason, and he has no, that kind of guy who just
Yeah.
kind of dub con, non con kind of situation. And I don't know if I'll ever write that well, I'm not going to say never. I'm never going to say never. But when I say darker, I mean the world itself, the stakes, the sort of that gothic beauty. That's what really intrigues me about darker, romantasy.
Yeah, I felt like in this case, the hero had noble intentions,
Hmm.
but the world he grew up in was so it was dark and it was also like ruthless in
Yeah,
a way that made it hard for him to be different,
right.
um, up right from the start.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um, I was gonna ask, I'm really intrigued by the idea that this prologue was the first thing that you wrote and that you had to set it aside. And but I'm curious, like, how often do the things that you write, like at the very beginning of your inspiration, like how often does that make it all the way to the end?
Like in the
Um,
actual
Because
book.
yeah,
it usually always does. I know that's so strange, but even for Firebird, same situation, but it was actually a 10-year gap
Oh,
when
wow.
I wrote, well, 8 years. I think I had the idea about 10 years ago for Firebird and that world, but it was about 8 to 10 years ago I wrote the prologue. I can't remember exactly because it was really so long ago that I wrote it because I was like, it was just, I'm dying to get it out. But just like the prologue in this one, it's basically the same thing except just revised and hopefully refined a little bit more and serves because like when I write the prologue it's more of like I'm just like immersing myself in the world and getting a feel for the characters. It's almost like a character sketch. I think that's why I love prologues because I'm like I'm feeling the characters for myself, as well for the first time. And then when I come back to it and I write this like thick outline, um, they're more they're more fleshed out to me and the conflict's more fleshed out, and so I'm like, oh well, I might need to change this a little bit. I definitely had to do that for the prologue for the Wraith King after Marielle was one of my beta readers. Thank you very much. And all of my beta readers had really terrific feedback, and I realized I don't know, I was too heavy with my internal monologue on that first draft, and so I tried to cut it a lot. Um, and specifically, I didn't want the readers to know every single thing that um, Galia was really feeling at that time, you know,
Right.
because he
Yeah.
did
You
leave
got
it
to
say,
in
tease it
to
out a
later,
little bit.
I'm sorry, say again?
You got to tease it out a little bit, like let it go
Yeah.
out through the story while she's figuring it out too. Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
it
I
worked
will
out
say
great.
it didn't feel like anything was missing though. And I
Yeah.
say this even as somebody who read an earlier version. The one thing that really like broke my heart was Min being a lady's maid slash
I
best
know.
friend, like childhood friend to Una. I when she was like in the very first chapters defending Una and gets killed, and I was just like, my
Have y'all
friend.
ever heard this phrase? And it comes from Stephen King, who gave like writing advice, and he said, I don't remember the exact, so forgive me if it's not exact, but he said sometimes you just have to kill your little darlings,
Mhm.
or cut
Yeah,
your darlings. And he's referring to, you know, perfect like pretty prose or whatever happens. But
yeah,
when I went back and I rewrote the first quarter of this book and realized that, oh wait, King Goliath's father is still alive, and he's sending his assassination team in there to get her. There is no way that they would allow her to bring her handmaiden with her for comfort. Like, so she had to die, and so that was very difficult for me because she was literally a character all the way through to the end of the first draft, and
Mm,
she is her best friend and the whole time. And I also thought it rose the stakes a little bit more for Una. If she has no one to rely on and she's really alone in this world, this Northgall when she's taken there. I mean, I felt like that raised the stakes more for her as a character, which I
yeah.
like. You know,
yeah. It definitely, I mean, I was like, oh no, now she's alone. But
First
also,
chapter.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right away,
Which
right
is
away. I was like,
ruthless.
oh no,
Yeah.
everything is different. But also then when she was there, when she was in that castle back in a place where she had been hurt before,
Mhm.
and she really didn't have any backup. And so her like being able to kind of stand up for herself or still speak up, it felt really brave and felt really like you got a handle on who this girl was.
Mhm. Yeah.
Which was it was really
Thank
good. I
you.
super enjoyed it.
Thank you. I felt like if she was a royal, she would have been trained and to be poised under all kinds of situations,
Mhm.
even a ruthless kidnapping. So she kind of clung to her upbringing to sort of guard herself. That's how I saw her. Even though she was terrified at many, many moments, she just put on her brave face, put her big girl panties on, so to
Mhm.
speak, um, and did it, which is the kind of women I admire in the real world.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
So in the story, obviously, we meet all the different types of fae in the world. Um, and it seemed like toward the end, we maybe were hinting about what book two might be about. And I was curious if you wanted to say anything about that at all. You don't
sure.
have
Y'all
to.
want to make a guess? Do y'all have a guess?
Uh, the Shadow Prince is what we're thinking.
Nope. No, it's not. So I'll go ahead and tell you guys. So book two is the Beast Lord. So
Okay.
book
Redvin,
two is
right?
going to be Redveer, and I
Red,
cannot wait to
yes.
write him. Um, he's a big, cocky, arrogant, Beast Lord,
Yeah,
and I
that's
cannot
awesome.
wait
I'm
for him
so
to be
excited.
blown over by his lady, who you have met if you read Kings and Bones, the novella.
Uh-huh.
Um, his heroine is actually the Scald Fae, Jessamine, in the novella, she's like the waitress at the tavern.
Okay.
So, and she's got lots of secrets and she's kind of on the run as well. And I have to tell you guys, so my son, I have three sons and a daughter. My two older, actually all three of my sons are DMs in D&D. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And my son Jacob is probably the most like me, which is funny because we have the same zodiac sign and everything. We're totally zen together. But Jacob and we were going to a family reunion and he and I were riding together and the others were following us. We spent the entire 3 to 4 hour drive talking about and brainstorming Redveer's story
That's so
and
fun.
the Scald Fae. And so I love picking his brain because he knows about so many different kinds of monsters and Dungeons and Dragons. And so um, I use that a lot. Like I
You
was like,
know
oh,
that
this could totally work. Like
That's
I could
awesome.
see that. That's kind of weird and odd, but oh my God, that would be really cool. So yeah, so we brainstormed a lot and I'm very excited about that. And the third book is going to be The Shadow Heir.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
the heroine came to me when I was visiting Fairy Glen in Scotland. That
Oh,
was walking through Fairy Glen, it like hit me. I was like, I know who his heroine's going to be. Like, it was so bizarre.
That's awesome.
So, anyway,
Inspiration.
I was so inspired by Scotland. Oh my God. The Isle of Skye is literally the most beautiful place I've ever set foot in. I have to go back if I'm blessed enough to get back there. I love it. But yes, so those are going to be the three. I don't have plans to write a novella in between, but who knows? I may decide to do that too.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I'm
like
excited.
we should talk to Jacob, the dungeon master, and figure out what
No,
secrets he knows.
what's happening, right?
That's
Oh,
awesome.
Jessamine's special, and I think it's pretty unique. So I'm excited about some decisions I made for her magic. So.
That's
That's
awesome.
awesome. Yay. I did want to ask world building because since this world is like completely a new realm, like we're
Right.
not talking, this is kind of like anything really.
Yeah.
Um, how did you go about like building out the world? Do you have like an ancient rivalries, like descendant from like mythological beings,
Yeah.
and it's first of all, kudos because your ability to write all that into the story without me feeling like you're sitting here going, hmm,
And then,
once upon a time. Like,
There was a god named.
yeah.
yes. I mean, no, that was really, and you did kind of like there's that like children's kind of fairy tale in the beginning that you're like, oh, nice. What an like what a cute beginning. But yeah, it's telling me something. Like everything that was there felt like it was there for a reason in hindsight. But
Mhm.
as it was going, I never felt like you were pausing to be like, let me tell you,
Let
let
me
me
tell you a
explain some
story.
things. Yeah.
In the
Thank
middle of the
you.
story, I'm already telling you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
stories
great.
within
Hard not
stories.
to
Isn't that
do
it's
that,
kind of meta,
honestly.
right?
Yeah.
Um, so for me, when I started building this world, I knew I wanted it to only be a world of light and dark fae. I'm very, if you have not noticed, I'm highly inspired by Greek mythology and Roman mythology. Um, those are just my favorites, and I feel like all civilizations are formed by their religion and by their stories, their fairy tales, so to speak, and legends. And so I felt like I needed to really know where all these people came from. And the thing is too, if you talk to one culture, they may have a similar story, but it's told like about the same gods and goddesses, but
Yeah.
totally different. No, that's not the way it happened. That's not the way it really happened. And so I felt like if we had these two vastly different cultures, the light fae and the dark fae, that their versions of the stories would be very different. And so I like using that a lot. It just helps me guide like their innate beliefs, because that's what makes them do things, whatever it is. Um, and so especially, like Gaul is he firmly believes in their psychics and their, all of that. And he firmly believes in their premonitions. And so if his God is telling him, if Vix is telling him she's the one to help you, take power over the world, okay, I'm going to take her,
Right.
sort of by force. And um, I found it just really fun to change things where she kind of she didn't understand him, but that's because
She thought
they're
she did, but she didn't, which made it even better.
right, right. Like their stories are, very different. That's not the way it was told and when I was a little girl or whatever.
Yeah.
Of course they wouldn't tell you because it would look bad on your culture,
On your goddess. Yeah.
So there's bias,
Yeah,
and I feel like that's very real world. So
definitely. Yeah, we talked about that in one of our recaps, I think, just how much uh conflict that caused between them because she thought she knew
mhm.
everything already and she didn't.
Yes,
And
yes,
so it was great.
yes. Even the meaning of
It
the
was a
Mizra,
lot.
you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I will say that the idea of the Mizra evolved as well. Like when I first thought of it, it's like, oh yeah, she's just the breeder, the queen
Right.
breeder,
Hmm.
but definitely not the queen. But then I realized, well, Vix loved his Mizra, the original Mizra, and so
Yeah.
that was the intention. But over time, you've have corrupt kings, and they've sort of bastardized this tradition into something dirty or more using of the woman than honoring her. And so that's why I wanted King Gala to bring that back.
So relatable,
Yeah.
honestly.
Right?
It was fun. It was fun to see him kind of let her go with whatever she was. I mean, there were other people within like the court who would be like, no, 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 that's not, I
I
think
don't think that
you
means what
have
you think
this
it means.
wrong. She would say stuff to him and he was just like, all right.
He
Okay.
just like let her go. Yeah.
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 Which, I mean, I guess it worked in his favor, like because he wasn't trying to like he needed her to not know everything all at once. So it's like if she said a thing, he just didn't answer, and she was like, "Exactly, because I'm right."
Right.
And it, anyway, not till
Dumb,
later.
Well, and then he isn't the
Wait a
one
minute.
trying to convince her. She figures it out for herself eventually. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Oh
I
yeah.
And I thought that I Love Yous, which was it was interestingly, I think everybody, like we knew, everybody in the book knew,
Yeah.
but they were still like, I mean, I don't know, he might send me back, and you're like, will he?
Yeah,
I'm pretty
no,
sure he's not
that's
gonna
never
send you
happening,
anywhere.
Luna. It's
Yeah.
not happening ever.
Like he gave you a castle.
Yes.
He was banishing me, I think,
Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe. No.
It's so funny because I think the cover, I think also, so I love this cover. Thander Lynn is the artist.
It's
Amazing.
gorgeous.
It is
She's
beautiful.
absolutely amazing. And she did the special edition. I don't know if y'all saw the beautiful, oh my God, y'all. So I just booked her for the next two books and the special editions over the next, so I'm like so happy. Um, but when we first did the cover, like I wanted to show, yes, he's a badass, but he is obsessed. He is obsessed and he wants her. And I think, I think I got that across. I think that shows. But I think a lot of readers, or not a lot, but some readers, I think were expecting this like cruel, heartless, beast of a hero. And that's not really what I intended, and I don't know. I'm always kind of hoping that it's like, did I lead people astray thinking, I mean, he is, he did like, murder his father, in like chapter 2 or 3 for her. So he is pretty badass, and he's ruthless in ways that he gives her a choice, but not really,
Right.
she doesn't really have a choice.
It's not really a choice. Yeah.
Right. It's really coercion, and okay, yeah, me or I kill the rest of your family, whatever,
Right.
the rest of
The
your
rest of
people,
everybody. Yeah.
sort of thing, So, but for me, I think my heroes are always, no matter what exterior they show, deep down they're good at heart, and when they find their woman, there's nothing, that they're not going to change their mind or be wishy-washy about it, or maybe no, it's like she's mine and she's mine forever, because that is the kind of hero I love. I love the obsessive touch or die, literally, heroes. Unfortunately, I can do that in romantasy,
Yeah, definitely. And paranormal.
and
I feel like as
paranormal.
fun as Stay a Spell is, all your guys are like that in Stay a Spell too. So
They are, right?
yeah.
As they should be, honestly.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
sorry. If you don't like that, then I'm probably not the author for you.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, I have a hard time, like, when the hero, like, is, if, it's like, even with enemies to lovers, like, if they're enemies because, like, circumstantially they're
Right.
opposed,
Romeo
fine.
and Juliet kind of
But
thing.
yeah, but if they're actually like they hate each other and they do like mean things, do you know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
a funny line for me
Yeah.
where if they're actually like cruel to each other, I'm like, oh,
I
I
remember
don't know
Tessa
if I can
Bailey
get
saying one
past
time
that.
that like enemies to lovers, but only if he actually loved her the whole time. Like he can't be mean to
Yes,
her. Like that
exactly.
doesn't work for me.
Yes,
He can
that's
be
me
mean to
too.
everybody else, but he can't be mean to her.
Yes.
But to
And
me, it's like unintentional. You know, like in
Yeah.
this case, there were things that she like um that she understood a certain way, and then when he realized, he was like, what? No, like that's that I did not, I would never, I stepped away because I thought you hated me, not
Yeah.
because, you know what I mean, like it
Yeah.
just,
yeah.
that I can handle.
Yeah.
I
Not
there's
on purpose.
so it was,
Yeah.
yeah. So was it like at the thread that needs to be um
Yeah, you're
like
thinking of
it's
the
a
enemies to
defined
lovers
thread.
in that true, what they call dark romance,
Yeah.
and the
And
guy
like
that's,
really old school, you know,
yeah,
like
Oh
those really
yeah.
old school books where they are just
Some of them are
like
so
terrible.
mean.
And then they're like, oh, actually, though, we belong
yeah,
together. And you're like,
You're
I
like,
don't know.
no,
I think
cold storage forever, sir.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Anna
No,
Lindsay
not
once, it
enough
was like,
grovel in the world.
no, that's the problem. Is I think I've said this to Megan before that like if the heroine or the hero forgives before I do, it's
Mhm.
real hard for me because I'm just
Yeah.
like, nope, nope, nope.
You're
I'm
like,
not
I'm glad
ready.
she's happy because I do not forgive you.
Yeah. Yeah. You got away with it.
Yeah. So I know we talked a little bit about Firebird, but that is the next Trad Pub book you have out, right, in April. And that is
Yes.
another first in a new series, if you want to say
Yes.
anything about that.
Firebird. What can I say? Um, I'm very
It's
excited.
Roman mythology, right?
It is right. So it is set in a reimagined ancient Rome where the patricians are dragon shifters. And that is how they've been able to pillage and burn across the world. And my heroine, Melina, she's Dacian, which is modern day Romania. And so, of course, we have a prologue because I love prologues. And it's when she's much younger. She's 17 and she dances with her sisters. So that's something they do to earn money with this troupe that they travel with around. And they are entertaining. And suddenly, they're terrified because the little sisters come in and say, there's Romans here. There are Romans here, and one of them is a centurion. Well, a centurion is an officer, and only patricians can be officers, so that means he's a dragon. And so she has mystical powers, as do her sisters. And I don't want to tell you what they are because, again, it does start with a myth. And it's funny because I'm wondering if people would be like, "Oh my God, she copied off of herself," but I kind of did because I start
Can
with
you
a
copy
myth.
off of
Because
yourself? It's just
yeah,
your
I
own
copied off
thing.
of myself. I like this idea of having a myth that sort of sets a foundation. Mythology sets the foundation for every culture, right? And when I say
Yeah.
mythology, I mean the basis of religion or stories and literature and lore. And so I love this idea of it opens with a retelling of Medusa, which is very different from the actual myth of Medusa, um, where Minerva bestows powers upon Medusa and her two sisters, and that those powers travel through time and generations. And so Melina and her sisters inherit these powers. And so, anyway, so that kind of gives you an idea of what's going to happen. But in the very beginning, she's enslaved within chapter one. So, and brought back to Rome as the Roman centurion, now a general, as his prisoner and slave in his a new slave in his house. And so, and there's lots of backstory to that. What's actually happening there is different than how it sounds, or a little bit anyway, not a lot, but yes, a little bit. Um, but what I can tell you about Firebird is that I literally have wanted to write this story for almost the entire time I've been publishing. Um, but it was one of those that it just kept taking a back seat. I was writing Veil of Star. I was writing actually Vampire Blood series, and then, Veil of Stars, and then I was like, well, let me write Stay a Spell, and I knew I wanted to do it in a way that I wanted the covers to be really beautiful, and I
I was
wanted
going to
to do
say
it in a
that's another
big way.
beautiful cover.
Right? Like and then just fortunately, the gods bestowed the book gods were very kind, and I cannot even express how happy I am about this, and I honestly believe it's the best book I've ever written. Um, I don't know, that might be saying something, and people can disagree with me. No, Grim and Barrett's the best, whatever. People love certain heroes and whatnot, but I felt it when I was writing it. I was like, I love this world, and it feels so right and so good. And I'm actually about to start writing book two
Yay.
already in
Exciting.
that series. So
Oh, that's
yeah,
so
it's
fun.
That's
I'm so happy
exciting.
for
it
you.
is going to be exciting, you guys. I just get ready. There's lots of exciting stuff coming around that's going to come with it too. So yeah.
So this was in the back of your head, but also the prologue was written probably you said 10 years
8 to
ago
10
or
years
Yeah.
ago. Yeah.
about, but was it like percolating the whole time? Or were you truly like, I have set this aside until the
Oh
time is right?
no. No, I would think about every now and then I'd think about, oh, my Dragons of Rome. As a matter of fact, that's what I have. I have a file still. It's still called Dragons of Rome. All the files are in that. Um, that's how I saw it in my head. We ended up renaming it to The Fire That Binds, which I think is much more romantic sounding. But yeah, it was always in the back of my mind. I would think about it and I would think about them meeting um and what was going to happen next, when they got to Rome. We skipped ahead in time, and yeah, it's crazy that, but some of the things that I originally thought were going to happen, like originally I had Trajan, his second was going to be the villain, the secret villain. And I'll just give you a spoiler. He's not, he is his best friend. He's his only friend he can really trust, with everything that he believes, because did y'all ever watch the series Rome, the HBO series Rome?
I know
I,
about it. I never watched it.
Oh, it's so good. I've watched it several times, but
I'm gonna
I,
watch it now
I just
because
Yeah.
love, and I used to teach like, Julius Caesar and stuff. So I
yeah,
love this world of intrigue. And you have to be so careful. It's that whole idea of being betrayed by, even like a servant or whatever, someone overhearing something. So it just adds this level of danger in a world like that I think is really cool. But now making the Roman patricians dragon shifters definitely elevates things a little bit,
Yeah.
and it also allowed me to recreate things like, death riders. I have like names for different kinds of dragons and what they do, what their roles are, and even like the columns in the forum are giant, or dragons with, it's called half skin. Half skin is when they transform part way, so they're sort of like man beasts with wings and tail and fangs and like dragon snouts and stuff. So, visually, to me, it's very exciting in my head. Visually is what I mean.
yeah.
So, and I'm just drawn to imagery and like really rich fantasy like that. So I'm excited. I'm so excited for it. And yeah, yeah, that's all I can say.
Yay! We're excited too. And of course, as lovers of Stay a Spell, we are excited about the second generation series that you have coming out. And that's
Yes,
even before
it
Firebird.
is
So,
in February.
Mhm.
Yes. Yep. So
oh,
we have Ronan and Celine taking the
see.
stage. I was floored. Chris, my social media, she creates my social media content and manages my shop and stuff, and we're also friends. And she was recently reading it, and she sent me a quote. She was like, "Oh my goodness!" Like from the book, from Rebel, and I was like, "You like him?" She goes, "I think he's the swooniest hero you've written." I was like, "Stop."
Ah,
He
I can't
is
wait.
pretty charming, Ronan.
Those wolves,
So
man, they'll get you.
I know, yeah, he's a werewolf. Yeah. And I thought it would be fun to create it's sort of a parallel with Wolf Gone Wild, because he also can't shift. But it's been for a long, long time and for very different reasons. So I made it very different.
hmm
But I thought that would be a fun parallel, um, with Wolf Gone Wild, since it's the first
It's her
one, you
parent.
know?
That's her parent's story. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so fun. Oh gosh. Well, we could clearly talk to you all day, and we are very excited about all your future books. We really loved this book, though. We hope everybody that read
Thank
along with us loved it too. If you want to know anything about it or have any questions, I'm sure if you pop them in, we can maybe pass them along to Juliette. But now I guess I'll ask you what I always ask everybody, which is, what is your favorite trope to read right now?
Oh my goodness.
If you ever have
My
time to read.
favorite trope, well, my favorite genre right now is fantasy romance, and I have to admit, I'm currently reading an Enemies to Lovers. But I'm reading, so that's my favorite right now. Zoe Draven's, her new Shadow Horde King.
Mm-hmm.
I just,
Perfect.
we talk about people who do Enemies to Lovers well. I think she does it
Yeah,
very well.
yeah.
And I'm not saying that just because she is a good friend of mine. Like I loved her writing before we became friends, and it's still the same. But it's just, she just does such a good job. There's solid reasons for them to be enemies, for them not to like each other. And so we have this sort of like forced fake marriage, and I'm like, oh yes, I love that. As we know.
Yes, that's fun.
So, yeah, that's what I'm loving right now.
That's awesome.
My question for you is if we were a fly on the wall when you're in the middle of your writing, what would we see?
Probably more along the lines. You mean like physically, where am I? That kind of thing?
Like, yeah, where are you? What does it look like when you're like deep
Okay.
into your writing?
Right now, it looks like me on my sofa with my laptop and my headphones on. And I tend to listen to soundtracks like the Witcher soundtrack
Oh,
and sometimes Harry Potter, sometimes Lord of the Rings soundtracks. I like the soundtracks that don't have words because then it distracts me.
Hmm.
But not to say that other music with lyrics doesn't inspire me, because they do. When I'm in the car, I'll think of a scene. But when I'm writing, I just need that sort of like, I don't
the
know.
ambiance.
Yeah.
Yes, need that ambiance. So that's it right now. Now, what it's going to look like in about a month or two is going to be totally different. So ask me that question later when I get
Okay.
back in my office. And I
Yes,
apologize
your
to
new
everyone
office.
who can see the boxes all over the place. It's crazy in here.
I'm excited because I ordered from your shop a special edition. And I have to
Same.
tell you, I don't often order like if I love a book, I will have it in every iteration,
Yeah.
which we do have at the end of this month in December, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
audiobook is coming out. So already pre-ordered that. And and there's a special edition, but I when I saw boxes, I was like, ooh, it's one of those.
Right.
Oh no, I
What?
wish. That's just witches get stitches right there. You can see it peeking out. No, no, they have been ordered, and actually, I'm getting updates from the printer regularly. They sent me like videos of the dust jacket to make sure the colors are correct before they start laminating the gold foil on top. And I'm just like, y'all,
I'm
I'm
so
just,
Can't
excited.
wait.
oh
Grab
God,
your
it's going to
hands.
be so gorgeous, so gorgeous. And I mean, I know I said April, May, but I may have them before. I'm hoping maybe March. I'll be able to start shipping some. So, but they're going to be beautiful. I think Thunder Lynn's talent too of detail, when you start looking at it and the details that she does, and yeah.
It's
Anyway,
absolutely gorgeous.
it's
Yeah.
gonna be great. But
I
thank you
can't
for
wait.
supporting me. I appreciate you
Yes.
guys.
We love you. Thank you so much for being here. And in case anybody who's watching will also be on the Love Lit cruise with us in February, we will see you
Yeah.
then.
I know the Lovelit cruise. I cannot wait till February. That's going to be so fun.
Oh, can't wait. It's my first cruise. Very exciting. And of course,
Yes.
hanging out with you is always a fun time.
Thank you. Yes, you
So
too, Megan.
thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next month.
Bye.